So when we watch the best players in the world hit their shots from a good setup position, we'll see a solid strike. We see the low point ahead of the golf ball so that the club's traveling down. We see club face control and path relative to the shot they're trying to hit. We see club speed decent and a good consistent carry distance. Now, that's the best players in the world. But what do I tend to see with the majority of golfers in the world? Well, they'll tend to set up pretty decently to the golf ball, but then they'll make their backswing, and on the way down, they don't really get things correct. We tend to see the low point behind the ball. Club face and path can move around a little bit. We see a lot less speed and much shorter shots. So as a general rule, the best players in the world do something very different at impact, don't they? Like we said there, they get their low point ahead, lots of power, lots of control. But why do they do it so differently to the majority of golfers in the world? So the little magic move that I'm going to talk about and show you today, 99% of club golfers probably don't do. And yet 99% of tour players actually do this. So you have to make your mind up, which camp would you rather be in? I know which one I'd rather be. So we're going to talk about how you move in the downswing, and there's kind of 3 ways that we move to get the club moving and generate speed. So what we're going to talk about is once you get to the top of your backswing, the top players in the world move towards the target, then there's a little bit of rotation, and then there's a little bit of push movement in their golf swing. And as a result of that, like we saw at the start, it's going to give a nice strike with a bit of power in there and lots of control. But unfortunately, most golfers kind of get a little bit confused, I think, as to how they should start their downswing. So most golfers will get to the top, and then they're told that they need to turn out of the way. Now, the problem with just turning out of the way is as I rotate my body, we see how that club gets thrown out in front of me, and that path would work too much to the side. Some golfers get told that all they need to do from there is move onto their front foot. Well, if you just get that movement into the front foot, the club drops down behind you, away from the inside, and that's where the blocks and the hooks come in. So we have to get that movement correct, as in move to target, rotate, and push. Now, there is a couple of PGA Tour players do it in a slightly different order to that, but they get a very different shot. Now, I know what you're thinking, though, is that sounds like a lot going on there. Well, what if there's already something you do where you have that exact sequence and you've learnt it? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Because you wouldn't have to learn a new sequence. You just have to learn how to access it. So I think the best way for most guys to get that feeling is pick a ball up, stand side on, and throw a ball out that way. And most of us can throw a ball. Apologies if you struggle with throwing a ball. So what you'll see when somebody throws is from a pretty 50-50 setup, they will load into their right leg. Their first movement will be shifting towards the target. Then there's a little bit of rotation. And then for the speed, there's a little bit of push. So we've already got that kind of sensation in our body. That movement pattern is already there. So the way I like golfers to feel it, one of 2 ways. You can either feel like you're throwing the club, which can work really, really well for a lot of golfers. Obviously, don't let go of it, but you can stand there, get to the top, and then feel like you're going to throw that club towards the target. And when you get there, straight away, felt very aggressive into that left side. See that low point's moved way ahead of the golf ball. My club speed's jumped up, which I definitely see a little bit of that, and carry went up. So for a lot of golfers, just the initial concept of feeling like you're throwing the golf club will get that slide to target, that rotation and that push. But if you're somebody who actually wants to think about how you do that a little bit more, a great way is once you get to the top, I want you to feel like you press down into your lead foot, and then as you're coming into impact, I want you to feel like you're going to try and slide your foot forward, and that'll push that left hip behind you, which is rotating, and get that left hip moving up, which is that push. So that can be a great feel, is get the pressure onto your left foot, feel like you slide that foot forward. Obviously the foot won't move because the ground's going to keep it there and the friction. So if we work on that thought and feeling, and again, feels very powerful. We see great low point, 3.8 inches ahead, 88 mile an hour club speed, and again, actually more control on that delivery of the club through the bottom. So I think for a lot of guys, as long as you can get the weight onto that left side early enough, they feel that they can get the body moving better. Now, let's say you're somebody who, as you're working through this video, you say, right, I'm really trying to do that. And it feels better, but I kind of don't really feel I get a lot onto that left side. It might be the fact that if you're somebody who's quite left leg dominant in your swing, and I will do a video in a couple of weeks about how we're testing for leg dominance. If you're somebody who allows your weight to really move onto that right side, you can see you've got a long way to move back to get onto that left foot to be able to do what we're talking about. So if you are somebody who feels that you move around a lot and you struggle with that control and that power, you might have to feel that you stay a bit more centered during the backswing, which is just simply not letting that right hip move away from the target. Is get that right hip working behind you. It's not stack and tilt, it's not staying left, it's staying more centered and letting your pressure move less onto that right side. That then becomes easier to get that pressure early into that left foot. So if I try that, feel like I stay a bit more centered. So we'll look at that one. Out the center, 3 inches ahead, 87 mile an hour, 166 carry. But like I said, all the best players in the world, once they get to the top, whether they're someone who stays centered or moves a little off the ball, they very quickly get lots of pressure into their lead foot, at least 70% pressure by the time the hands get back to waist height. Then they can rotate and push off that foot. But because most club golfers keep the pressure on that back foot, it's very hard to control that low point and generate any speed. And like I said, there's 2 ways you can do it. If you're somebody who feeling that you set up, gets to the top and then feels like you're going to throw the club towards the target, if that works for you, that's a really good way of producing it. And we can see there for me, 3.2 inches ahead, 89 mile an hour club head speed and 173 carry. So we're getting more and more distance from working that magic move even better. But for some golfers, we like to have a little bit more conscious thought in how we're moving. So like I said, maybe stay centered, heavy onto that left foot, pushing down into that left foot, and then feel like you're going to try and slide it away and get that left hip moving out of the way quicker. Completely depends which way you feel most comfortable. But we can see 2.2 inches ahead, 90 mile an hour club head speed and 179 carry. So we can see that magic move in that downswing, getting you using the ground correctly so that your body moves efficiently, is once we get to the top, a shift towards the target, a little bit of rotation and then some push. We all should do all 3. Ideally in that order, but you'll get away a little bit with being a little out of order. But if you can work on that, that magic move is what will take your ball striking to a whole new level. So guys, hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, like it and share it. Comment below and I'll get back to as many people as I can. There's another video just there that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys down here soon. Stay in contact.